My colleague David Cullinan said yesterday that this bill is the minimum needed in terms of Brexit planning, and it is certainly minimalistic in the context of transport. I have concerns that it will not provide for some of the potential consequences of a no-deal Brexit. Having questioned Minister Ross on matters relating to Brexit, I am not confident, I have to say, that all the issues around transport have been addressed. As a TD for Louth, a border county, I am only too aware of the potential effects for people in Ireland as a result of Brexit. And I welcome that provision is made in the bill to ensure that access to health and educational services may continue, and that there are provisions around the All-Ireland economy and energy requirements. This bill is proof of how many problems will be thrown up if Britain crashes out of the EU next month. Having two jurisdictions on this island does not work. It has never worked. It makes even less sense in the context of Brexit. Brexit has shown just how ineffective partition has been. It has failed, and it is time to plan for reunification. Brexit has reminded us of just how little regard Britain has for Ireland, and how disastrous the DUP Conservative coalition is for the people of the North. The infrastructure for unity exists under the Good Friday Agreement, and I suggest the Government stop resisting this eventuality and commence planning. The bill puts a legal framework in place in this state to ensure that cross-border access, which is currently facilitated by the Common Travel Area, is maintained. It's keeping the status quo. In the transport context, the bill deals with this via cross-border bus services. It confers additional powers to the Minister for Transport and the NTA, which will be the regulator. And this seems fine to me. Unfortunately, this, alongside a short section on licences for marine pilots, is the sum total of the transport provision in this bill. Our Brexit plan was published a few weeks ago, and it outlines the investment needs for this state ahead of Brexit. We outline how Sinn Féin would invest in capital infrastructure, like our ports, our roads, our railways, and in supporting business and ensuring commercial exporters are properly protected. We also outline how we would go about regional development, such as the border area, which could suffer enormous consequences, as we know, as a result of Brexit. The Government does not recognise the need to invest, and I've heard no mention of the need to invest in our ports. This is obvious if we are going to facilitate trade in the event of a hard or no-deal Brexit. In December, it was reported that the Department of Transport hadn't liaised with Dublin Port, and that they only requested sight of their hard Brexit contingency plan in November, and that is really quite shocking. I questioned Minister Ross on a number of occasions on the matter of insurance green cards for motorists. He told me that he had communications with the insurance industry and his British counterpart in the matter, but when I asked him an oral question the following week, turns out he didn't. The Minister for Transport has approached Brexit in the same way that he approaches the rest of his brief. Hands off. It's somebody else's responsibility. This is his responsibility, and we need to prepare for Brexit, and planning for investment to secure our ports and harbours, and working with all the stakeholders, including the insurance industry, aviation, hauliers, public transport and the tourism industry. Well, that is his job. On the matter of licences and insurance green cards, I intend to submit an amendment at committee stage, ensuring that the Minister has the power to make arrangements necessary to ensure that motorists are not limited in any way in their cross-border journeys post-Brexit. I listened to Minister Ross's speech, where he spoke about the need for people who live here and hold British and Northern driving licences to change their licences to Irish ones by the 29th of March. Presumably, there will be a significant increase in people seeking to change their licences, and we need to ensure that there are sufficient resources and staffing to ensure that delays are avoided, and I sincerely hope that this will be provided for. I'd like to raise a few matters which I feel have yet to be addressed by the Government. Because the transport section of this bill is so scant, we need assurances that these matters are being dealt with. Regarding our ports, does the Government intend to invest in the ports across the state? This is vital to ensure that the entire island retains connectivity with Europe in the case of a hard or no-deal Brexit. And given the uncertainty in Britain, we have to ensure that we can trade directly with the EU countries without having to rely on Britain. And this can only happen with support and investment from the state. Has the Government done anything to deal with a matter of capacity at our ports, in particular in a situation where the land bridge isn't available or feasible and shipping traffic increases? What have we done about that? We also need clarity around whether additional resources will be in place to deal with increase in customs checks. I think the legislation, like the Government's plan, is scant and light in detail. But as the legislation is necessary, and we are very, very close to the wire, we will support it, but we will also submit amendments. And I hope that the Government will address the additional matters that I've raised.